So, Scarlett, have you created your villain?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with before we do your villain, I'm going to start with your main character and then move on to your villain. Okay, so I can actually view these now. So, okay, you were a boxer.
Yeah.
Are you still a boxer, or was that something to do with your past?
That was to do with my past. That was how I gained my original training.
Excellent.
I need to check my own cards. My battle training.
Okay. Where did you get your battle training? Because that includes things like firearms and weapons and wrestling.
I got it through boxing mostly. I'm mostly handheld.
Okay. Now, this is something that's come up before, actually, because I believe one of your characters from a fantasy world had battle trained, maybe?
Yes, that did.
And they had firearms as well, and it's not something that really fits into their story.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have your entire skill set come from a single source. You could say at some point in your life you learn how to fire a gun. If we're playing as standard in America, it's your parents taught you how to do it. You had to go and maybe you were briefly in the army or something like that.
You learnt in school.
Yeah, but all you need to know is when it happens, you don't need to worry too much that you've handled a gun before. So
okay.
I mean, maybe the boxing you did was in the shady underground.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe because you've got extra elements here, like combat has weapons in it as well as wrestle as well. So this could be something that you did as a dirty underground thing, or it could be an advanced fighting. I mean, I don't want to influence your decisions, but what if it was like kickboxing or like you've seen Shang-Chi, I presume?
Yeah, of course I've seen Shang-Chi.
Yeah, exactly. The weird underground sort of power hero fighting thing. Did you want it to be clean traditional boxing?
No, I would go for the underground theme. My character tries to avoid being in the light.
So maybe you were so good at it, it was no longer a challenge, so you moved into the underground world.
Or maybe I just never got the credit for it.
Yeah, okay, for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Now, the next next card I see is you've got the morph into animals, which is a very interesting animorph power.
Yeah.
But yes, were you born with this power, or did you acquire it, or something else?
I acquired it. I still need to get my head around my character. I spend some time doing.
No, that's fun. Well, that's what this process is, really, should be. It should help you decide. And obviously, it's your decision, but I usually try and encourage other players to get involved if people can't think of something. Yeah, so if Lyra's got any ideas, you don't have to accept it, but...
Well, maybe, as you went further and further into the underground boxing thing, you got, some kind of weird power drug that gave you the ability to turn into animals.
Like superpower steroids, so you could fight these more superpowered people who are turning up in the boxing ring.
Yeah.
Does that suit your concept, or is that not quite what you're going for?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm just thinking it through.
What's better at boxing, a gorilla or a kangaroo?
Exactly, and I could imagine if you do these underground boxing stuff that doesn't have rules, as soon as you get people turning up with like fists made out of fire or who can teleport, you're suddenly not in their league anymore. You're no longer the best of the best. These superpowered people are, so...
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to become some sort of PSA against steroids, isn't it?
I mean, let's just hope the pills weren't labelled Pentex.
Oh... They have to have been from Pentex, surely. That's too good an opportunity. So, unless you've got any objections to that, next on your list.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah. Don't let us push you into anything if you've got another idea.
Yeah, it's just difficult trying to incorporate these cards together, from becoming animals to being a boxer. To time travel.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting to time travel, actually. The way I always see it is this is basically part of the game.
Yeah.
If you want to think of it as like the challenges in the game, one of the challenges is trying to creatively piece these together. In general, as long as you haven't misinterpreted the rules, there's no wrong answer, as long as you're happy with it. And the way I always say, no matter what you think of, there is a weirder character out there in the Marvel or DC universe who has a far bizarre power.
Yeah, that is true.
Your character, Scarlett, also has a super bike.
Yeah.
This is a bike not that every ordinary person would have. So how did you come across this?
I'm from the near future, about 100 years or so into the future, and I accidentally travelled backwards.
So it's possible that this bike might be future tech.
Yeah, I would have built the bike myself from my knowledge of 100 years in the future technology.
Now, the superbike allows you to choose 2 features that your superbike has. Do you know which ones you want?
I'd go for remote, because that would be very useful with time travel, because being able, if I'm going back in time, it means I don't have to keep track of where my bike is as well. I can just remote it to come to me.
Yes, we will think of the logistics of how the bike got... Well, actually, that's a good point, actually. Maybe because the bike might not have been able to travel back in time with you, depending on your method of how that happened.
It wouldn't be able to travel with me. However, if I travel back in time, I could, if the bike already exists, I could summon it towards me. Not sure how I'd summon it, like how I'd remote it, what sort of device I'd use, but...
Yeah. Any peripherals you get automatically. You don't have to have those separates, and you can pretty much choose what the peripheral is. There's no limit on that. Even if you want an implant in your ear, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Or if you want to have it as a device you hold in your hand or a wristwatch, that's more flavour than anything else.
And then what does stunts do? That's one you need to work around.
Stunts. Well, under the drive rules, there are a variety of stunts, which are things you can do with a vehicle, basically. Yeah. Things like jumping, or if you're in a car, going on one wheel, or going down a narrow space, or just doing something, or like maybe riding up a wall for a few minutes.
Do you remember in The Dark Knight, there's that bit where he's driving his bike and then it sort of like goes left, or it's like goes in one direction and sideways. That would be like a stunt. It doesn't have to turn, it just goes sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, without going into a lot of detail of what the stunts are, you can choose a feature that your car, or your bike is really good at doing, like it's built to do. You can say, well, it's got a jump feature, so you get a +10 to doing jumps, or something like that.
So, I'll get remote and stunts then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll keep stunts simple for now and just say it's general stunts.
Please.
It's possible you have to choose a stunt, but for now, I think I'm happy to keep it. Again, any advice to any Games Masters playing, if the player doesn't really know what they want to do and the Games Masters is not really sure what to encourage them, you're totally allowed to just play the first game and then, oh, that would be great if my bike could do that, and that's what your bike does for then on in.
Yeah.
Because the first game should be very much, this is introducing the character. And how many times have you seen a movie or a TV show when the character seems screwed and suddenly out the bag they pull this one power you didn't know they could do, and then that's canon. That's kind of how that should work.
Bat shark repellent.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. You've got this cool bike from the future that you built. Now you've got the interesting one, time travel, an old card.
Yeah.
That is still might need some tweaking.
So, going back to the boxer then. So so I'm from near future and everything. However, the boxing itself, I wasn't making enough money from the underground boxing thing. So I was going on to these research projects of just things you can sign up for to be tested on.
Oh, the global Pentex experiment service.
Basically, yeah. And then one of the times they used it on me, it resulted in being able to have the ability to morph into animals due to a mutation.
So that was the first one, and did you get that one partially to help you with your underground boxing or fighting?
It was completely accidental as part of the testing.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's interesting. So you didn't do it intentionally, you just did it as part of the experiment to get more money.
Yeah.
And further testing led to this.
Yeah, and then time travel came from it, so they developed a neural link to go into part of your brain. However, it malfunctioned and it gave me a slight temporal ability to travel through time.
Right.
As opposed to space.
So, at a certain point, you travelled back in time.
So they would have implanted it, but we hadn't known that it had the ability. The implant would just be in my head, and it would have just acted like a dud. It just doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
Until I was in a boxing match, and I got hit in the head.
I like that.
And it sort of activated the implant for the first time. which just forced me to go back uncontrollably.
Okay, that ties in quite nicely. So usually you would struggle to go back 100 years, or it would take you such a long time that it would be very strenuous. And so something happened that you don't fully understand during the boxing match that you got punched back in time. That just sounds like a threat of a boxer that comes through. I'm going to punch you so hard, you're going to go back 100 years.
And then it happens, and everyone's very confused.
So, what did you do when you arrived 100 years in the past, in the primitive early, let's say, the 2020s?
Yeah. From the shock of traveling back for the first time, it would have completely knocked me out for a while. Possibly a couple days or so.
Okay.
It's a big shock traveling back in time 100 years after getting punched.
And as you didn't travel in space, you would have appeared wherever that boxing ring was, presumably 100 years in the past,
and
which could just be...
It's just an empty park. There was nothing there. It's just a field with a couple of trees.
Did anyone do anything? Did anyone find you unconscious for the time you were asleep?
Yes. So I would have been taken to hospital, obviously. Unconscious person on the ground for 2 days. They're going to hospital. And I would have woken up there, and there'd be a lot of confusion because there'd be no medical records of me. I don't exist.
And you're in this very primitive place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So what did you do with your new life? Did you try and get home?
So initially I couldn't work out how to activate the time travel. It was because it's an implant, I don't know how to control it. So I was slowly gaining some control over it over time.
Was there a lot of initial punching yourself?
Possibly a few times on the way. But then I eventually started to develop the ability and understand how to use it. And because I've got knowledge of futuristic electronics, I could sort of mess with the chip to try and understand how it's working.
I like that. Yeah.
And that's where the superbike comes in.
I see.
So during the whole experiment, trying to work out the brain chip and everything, I would have been building a superbike, a way to get around, and it helps me out massively having a bike that I could get around on.
Way more advanced than anyone else's.
However, the remote ability of the bike, I connected into the implant itself, so I can remote control my bike using the same ability as time traveling.
That's just efficient.
Okay, like the same chip.
Yeah, very efficient.
I like that. That's interesting.
So it means I'm not having to carry a remote or anything. I could just do it effectively telepathically.
Yeah. So we get onto your last card, your flaw, which is your arch enemy. Now.
Yeah. So they would have been someone else that was in the testing process. And initially we would have gotten along. But so with time travel, so I started to gain my abilities back, but I decided not to go back towards the future.
Okay.
Once I got my abilities back, I thought I may as well, because I'm having a better start in the current time period.
Yeah.
However, the person I was with for the experimenting, they strongly believe that I should be staying in their time period because that is where I'm from. And also, they're working with the people who did the experimenting to try to get me back, because obviously some of the time travel chips you can make trillions off of that.
Cool,
so they want me back to be able to do their experimenting and to be able to recreate it from me.
Maybe you were one of the first people who was actually successful that it worked on.
Yeah.
And maybe they can't recreate the chip without both of you.
Yeah. So my arch enemy, they would have seen what happened with the boxing match, because the experimental project came along the side. There was a shady side thing to it.
Yeah.
So they would have seen me get hit by the boxer. At this time, they wouldn't have known that they had the ability to time travel using the chip. But once they started gaining the ability to time travel, it suddenly clicked in their head what happened to me.
Right.
So then they end up trying to get me to go back. Also, they want the chip out their head. They're worried that it would be causing them damage. It could be physically affecting them. My character won't know.
Okay. So this person was another test subject, or are they more tied to the actual company?
They're another
itself?
test subject, but they've been with the company longer. The company's got something on them to keep them going back.
Excellent. Okay. So you've created them individually out of a series of cards. So you've got Not of This World, which kind of implies they've not adapted to this timeline as much as you have.
Yeah, so everything's...
So it's possible if you were playing this character as you just arrived, you would have had this card, and now you've like
because I would have been here for a couple of years now, whereas they'd be arriving roundabout now.
Yeah, so they've shortly arrived.
Yeah.
And you've given them a utility belt?
Yeah, they've got utility belt that they've brought from the future that was on their person.
I like that. Yeah, they've come specifically to hunt you, so they've become prepared for most situations.
As well as the AI assistant.
I like that as well. Because, yeah, they've come back to hunt you down and bring you back. I've noticed you've also given your arch enemy the arch enemy floor.
So I would be my arch enemy's arch enemy.
I'm totally happy with that. I love that. I think that's a nice little knot that's tied together.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And you've also made them a secret agent. That's very appropriate.
Yeah, so they're being an agent, a secret agent for that shady organization going on.
Pentex Plus, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they've obviously also got time travel.
They've got time travel as well from the chip. But obviously, they've also got...
Multiply self. Ooh.
That came... So, from the experimenting, they didn't do the animal one. They weren't there for that. Yeah. But one they did previously gave them that ability to sort of split themselves in two. However, it would cause them a great deal of pain to split.
Well, the next question is, does your character and your arch enemy have a name?
Not yet. That would be a good thing to think of.
Well, by the sound of it, we have two fully fledged characters. As these two characters exist, I can't resist the urge to make the organisation that sent you back in time and did the experiments on you to be the same organisation that Lyra was working for. That's too good an opportunity.
That gives us a way to meet up.
Exactly. Yeah. And as much as sometimes you might be reluctant...
Because I'm tracking Pentex Tech.
Exactly. Yeah, as much as you might be reluctant to sometimes do that, it's massively helps the story. If you think of it like a movie, it would be like, why are they not the same thing? Okay, so keep that in our mind.
So if they're from the same organisation, but my organisation is 100 years in the future, Kurt.
I imagine Lyra's organisation is probably just out of being a startup.
Yeah.
We're just developing those superhero pills.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You might not even be that close. Well, currently, it makes sense. You probably have several years, maybe decades of just research. You're still in the research phase.
I mean, maybe it's Rhiannon's research that led to the time travel chip.
Ooh.